people of Earth, comic book community, fellow travelers of the night. Welcome back to the Flash by Night channel, and welcome back to my follow-up on Moon Knight on Disney Plus. And today we are going to follow up on episode 5, The Asylum. So go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we are going to get started because there's a lot to unpack. So before we get started, I'm again going to try and manage our time a little bit better. I said I was going to do that last episode, and I think I cut like 4 minutes off of my time, which is not as much as I thought. So we're going to try that again. So I will say up front that there's a lot of flipping back and forth, switching between scenes, between hospital scenes and scenes with Taweret. I'll explain who she is. I feel like you already know who I'm talking about, but I'll explain who she is in a minute. But we open up the episode with a boy basically hollering for his mother in this cave. And then we kind of switch to his mother placing blame, saying it's all your fault to someone. They kind of drop it right there so we can get back to the main story, but we'll get back to the mother and that little boy in a minute. Where we really pick up at is Dr. Harrow's office with Mark basically looking rather beat up. He's been through some things. He's got his face is kind of bloody, a little bit swollen. He's got the trademark Band-Aid over his nose from the Lemire run. I believe everybody by now has heard the words the Lemire run at least once in regarding Moon Knight since episode number 4. He's talking to Harrow. Harrow is telling him about the organizing principle, how I guess people compartmentalize. And we get a surprising thing, at least in my opinion, from Mark, where as I said again, Mark was really roughed up when this scene starts, and we've never seen Mark in that kind of shape in this hospital. We've also never seen Mark actually act violently, and he sounded different. And I will let you make of that what you will. I believe we all kind of get where I'm leaning to, but that's kind of the thing that was going on until Billy and Bobby again come and sedate Mark, and we flip over to Taweret, where she's talking to Mark and Steven, and they explain who they are. She explains who she is, and basically explains to them that they are essentially dead right now. Mark doesn't believe it. Steven, who knows more than any person should know about Egyptian mythology and gods and that kind of thing, Steven knows that she's, I won't say telling the truth, but he recognizes what she is talking about. And also, while Mark is trying to come to grips with what is happening and what he is seeing and what he's been through, Taweret, who is like the Egyptian god of fertility and birth and rebirth and things like that, she kind of drops the hint that she's at least seen or been to the ancestral plane, if you are familiar with that concept from the Black Panther movie. So that was a fun little nugget we got dropped in there. But then we kind of flip and go outside of the hospital, and outside of the hospital we find out that the hospital is not a hospital. We are on a gigantic boat in the middle of, I think they call it the Jewett, which is basically this probably supernatural Egyptian desert on the way to or as part of the afterlife. And Taweret kind of breaks down everything that Steven and Mark need to know about the Jewett, about the afterlife, about the Field of Reeds. Actually, I think Steven brings up the Field of Reeds, which leads her to say, so this is the smart one, which I thought was pretty funny. Which leads me to address the elephant in the room. I know a lot of people are have different opinions on Taweret as a character and how she acts, and she may be a little bit funnier or a little bit more comedic than people want her to be. I'll leave that up to other people's interpretation. She was okay with me, but I did want to stop and address that because I know that's one of the things that people pay attention to and have pointed out to me. But getting back to what she's telling Stephen and Mark, she's also telling them about the scale of justice and the feather of truth, I think it is, and how she's going to take their hearts, literally, and sit them on this scale and weigh it against a feather. And if they balance, then they go to the afterlife in the field of reeds and kind of, live forever in what we would consider a heaven-like plane, I guess. If not, then the unbalanced dead will come back and basically get them off the boat and take them into the Jewett, where they will be stuck in sand forever. We end up back inside the hospital from the exterior of the boat, basically having Stephen and Mark know that they need those scales to balance out with their hearts. And in order for that to happen, they have to be complete. They have to basically get to know each other, let all of the secrets out, tell the truth about everything to each other so that they can be whole as a person. And if we're still playing the game, at this point, you can see a QR code on the wall in the hospital. That QR code will let you read Moon Knight issue number 1 from 1980. I thought that was pretty cool that we're still doing that. But as we get back to it, the first room that we get to actually go in is a room full of 15 to 20 dead bodies. And these bodies, we found out, are bodies from people who Mark has killed as Moon Knight because Khonshu deemed them worthy to be killed. They were the worst of the worst in Khonshu's sight, and so they needed to be doled out Khonshu's vengeance. And we get to see the scales kind of slow down a little bit as Stephen is learning more about Mark as Moon Knight. And then we get a little boy in there who is alive, and I want to know why this little boy is alive. I'm assuming, I'm not going to assume anything yet, but I want to know why this little boy is alive. But we get a little boy who is alive, who runs off. Stephen runs after him, even though Mark says not to run after him. He locks Mark into the room so that he can chase the little boy. And this is when we find out that the place that Stephen has run back to is Mark's childhood with his mom and his dad and his little brother Roro. We'll call him Roro for now. But we get to see a few of the things we've seen earlier, like Roro drawing the fish with the one fin, and we get the reference to Later's Gators and where that comes from. But they run off to a cave when it is raining and they're not supposed to, and basically Roro dies. I'm assuming he drowns. I'm assuming that the cave filled up with water and he drowned, and Stephen gets to see all this. This kind of starts this pattern of grief and loss and blame and eventually abuse that Mark had to go through particularly with his mother growing up, which kind of informs a lot of what we're seeing. After Mark eventually catches up with Stephen and basically has a little bit of a tussle with him to kind of, I guess, shake him out of this memory to get him to leave because he doesn't need to see everything, they both end up flashing into what is officially Moon Knight's origin. We heard about this in episode 4, but now we get to actually see it. We get to see the campsite where all of the archaeologists, all of the diggers were killed. Stephen gets to go back and see that also, and Mark explains to Stephen and essentially to us that he basically couldn't find much work because he was AWOL, and went to work with his commander as a mercenary. Speaking of which, it is really funny because of all the things that people have pointed out here and there, things that they saw in the show that may not have worked so well. The only thing I could think was that Marines don't call it AWOL, we call it UA. But that is another story for another time. And finally, Stephen sees Layla's dad, knows what happened to him. We know now, he knows. And then Stephen asks Mark, where is he? And this is where we get to see the two approach the basically the statue of Khonshu, where Mark from that day, is about to die. I think he's about to take his life, which I'm not sure adds up to the original origin, but things don't always add up to the original origins. But it's pretty close. And then Khonshu kind of gives him the spiel. He may have laid it on a little thick, but he eventually convinces Mark to be his protector of the Travelers of the Night, and the Avatar of Vengeance to be his Moon Knight, and gets Mark to come back to life. And that's how we basically see the origin of Moon Knight. Now, we get back to the boat, because I said we were going to switch back and forth through scenes. I don't know which one is which. We still don't know exactly what's real, what's not real, how everything is set up. I think it's intentionally supposed to be confusing, but we get back to the boat, and I pick up on two things. Taweret is basically saying that a lot of unbalanced souls are dropping in to the Jewett early, which Mark and Stephen kind of figure that Harrow is doing something in the real world. So that's really interesting. I don't think we'll follow up on that until episode number 6, but I did think that was something interesting to catch. I also think it was pretty interesting when they were trying to pull up to Osiris's gate, because that's where, of course, they should be able to find Khonshu, because Mark and Stephen have decided that Khonshu's not great, but they need him in order to save people from Harrow. But Taweret mentions that Osiris' gate is closed, and Osiris's gate has never been closed before. That's another thing that I picked up on, and I really want to see where that goes, because if you watch my review of episodes 2 and 3, I think you know that I don't trust Osiris's avatar or Osiris very much. But we'll have to see what comes of that in the near future. And then, boom, we are back in Harrow's office with Mark, not beat up, not bruised up, no band-aid, and acting like Mark would act, kind of suspicious, but still kind of talking normally to Harrow, and they're kind of having a back and forth. And Harrow convinces Mark that in order for them to really move forward with whatever treatment he has, he needs to kind of get in touch with and free Stephen. And then we're back to the hallway scene again, where it is really going to get interesting, because Mark does not want to go where Stephen wants to go to find out the rest of the truth. But Stephen tells Mark that he's got to go. He's got to see, and because if he doesn't go, and if he doesn't see, and if they don't balance the scales, then people are going to die. Layla is going to die, and it's going to be on Mark's shoulders. And then we enter Mark's room as a youngster. As I said before, basically with their mom. She's really abusive towards Mark. She's really cold and yeah, she treats Mark terribly because of what happened to Roro a few years back. and she is coming to basically give Mark physical punishment. And this is where we see Steven be born, because Steven, as it turns out, was basically a coping mechanism for Mark, and we can see the stark differences in the child. We get to see this poster of Tomb Buster, the movie we saw earlier, with Steven Grant on it, and right beneath the poster we see these balanced scales, which is pretty ironic. But Mark basically takes Steven out of this scene before Steven can see what actually happens to him or to Mark with the mother and her physical abuse of them, basically. Then we're back in the hallway with Steven and Mark again, and we again get a whole lot more truth, a whole lot more revelations. Mark finally confronts Steven and tells him that he was created to basically have the good life that Mark can't have. I guess you could say that Mark was kind of living vicariously through Steven in a way. So that's kind of what happened. And Mark also tells Steven that their mother is dead. And Steven, we've seen Steven talk to his mother on occasion in the show. And so Steven doesn't believe it. But I'm kind of wondering if, for a month or two, because that's kind of the time frame we got for a mom being dead and their lives kind of crossing into each other as a result. I wonder if Steven's been just leaving voice messages for his mom, but never actually getting to contact her, and that was what was going on in the very beginning. But we get a scene where we transport outside to the funeral, and we kind of see Steven and Mark, or actually I guess Mark, we see Mark kind of have a breakdown outside of the funeral. He doesn't want to go in, but he is really, really conflicted. And then he turns into Steven, and he doesn't know where he is. He's lost in the street. But that is inconsequential compared to what we see next. And it is probably my favorite few seconds out of the whole episode. At this point in time, Mark has a ton of grief kind of washing over him. He feels bad all over again for Roro dying. He feels at fault, like his mom was right. He feels at fault for all the people who have been killed, while he has been Moon Knight, and he's kind of breaking down. And Steven, who has been, say what you will about Steven, but he didn't start off as a very strong character, but Steven ends up being the backbone for Mark as Mark gets ready to break down over a lot of this stuff. The reason why I like this scene is because I think we all either are or have friends who are the strong one, who are the person who takes all the stuff on their shoulders. And sometimes sooner or later we all find out that person also needs support. And it's the person that you expect the least out of to have any kind of breakdown, any kind of negative reaction, because he or she has been so strong over the years and everything. And I love the fact that Steven got to prop Mark up when Mark was about to fall in that scene. That was one of my favorite scenes out of the whole show. And it was spectacular for me. Then we end up back on the boat, and we're getting close to Osiris's gate, which now, I know I said this earlier, which now is actually the time where we notice Osiris's gate is closed. We also noticed that Steven and Mark's heart still isn't imbalanced with the feather on the scales, and it is too late. Their time has run out. The unbalanced souls have come to take Mark and Steven into the Jewett. But what happens in the scuffle is, I've been saying this all along, Steven is manning up more, and Steven finally decided to physically fight back. And so Steven saved Mark a couple of times in this fight, but ended up going overboard into the Jewett and ended up maybe dying in the sand. I know he's frozen, and like they said, the people who end up in the Jewett end up frozen in time in the sand, which is where Mark's heart finally balanced. His scales finally balanced, and as he looks up, he is no longer on the boat, but he is in the field of reeds, and that is where we cut off. Man, I have so many questions. I want to know so much. I will, this is what we'll do. I will acknowledge that some of the expectations that I and most people had for this show probably haven't been realized yet. I know a lot of us want to see a lot more Moon Knight in the show, and maybe a little bit less Steven and a little less Mark, along with some other things. And I acknowledge that, and on certain points I agree. I can agree with that. However, once again, episode 5 has shown why this show is worth having, is worth watching. It was, in my opinion, really, really good. As I said, it didn't deliver what everybody wanted it to deliver, and that is, in my opinion, okay. I want to know what we're going to get in episode 6. I want to know exactly where we are, because after episode 4, I assumed that none of what we saw up until this time was real, and that this little girl in episode 1 who was having a little chat with Steven, I assumed that she was something special, which she may be, and that everything was fake, or everything was a dream or a vision. But now I'm not so sure. Now that Mark has ended up in the field of reeds, is Mark dead? Is Steven dead? And how does this end? How do we come back in episode number 6? Where do we come back in episode number 6? Is this version of Moon Knight that we see? Is this the real Moon Knight? Did the shooting that happened in episode 4, midway through the episode, did that actually happen? And are we going to wake up, in this shallow water with Mark somehow miraculously healed? I think Moon Knight has said on occasion, at least more than once, that he died before, got bored, and so he stood back up. Are we going to see some version of that, or are we in some kind of hospital already, and we're waiting to escape that? I don't know where we are. I would love to hear some of your theories about where we are and what might happen in episode 6. Also, again, I am very, very suspicious of Osiris. If anybody has any theories about Osiris and what he has going on, let me know. But again, if all of this is fake, then what is Osiris doing? And why does Osiris's actions now kind of jive with actions in previous episodes if none of this is real? So I'm not quite sure where we are. All I do know is that I had fun with this episode, and I really enjoyed getting to know more about Steven, more about Mark, and basically coming to grips with everything that makes Moon Knight Moon Knight. I know we all come for the caped and cowled hero that's gonna fight street level crime, or maybe fight supernatural crime or whatever. But I like the building blocks that we are getting with Mark and Steven on their background. I will say that I think the third altar, we're assuming Jake, I think that was him in the very first session with Dr. Harrow. We got 3 sessions with Dr. Harrow, and I do believe that Jake, or whoever the third altar is, I believe that was his turn. I assume that people are going to kind of jump on board with that one. But everything else is up in the air. I don't know what to really expect, except to sit back and let episode 6 come to me, and let the dice fall where they may. Anyway, those were kind of my thoughts and my follow-up on Moon Knight episode 5. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you saw or heard something you liked. If you did enjoy yourself, go ahead, hit that like button. And if you want to keep up with me following up on Moon Knight, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Of course, feel free to leave comments. Of course, let me know what you thought of the episode, good or bad. I'm open to all opinions. I don't want you to think, because I am essentially shilling for the Moon Knight show, that I don't value other people's opinions, because I do. But yeah, this has been Flash by Night, and as we always do at this time, love yourself, love others, and I will be back in a flash.